Welcome to another episode of People Pod. Today, I want you to imagine a young, fiercely ambitious performer.
Wait, I'm with you.
And she lands what most people would consider like the ultimate prize, a spot at this elite New York Theater Academy.
Which is basically the dream, right?
Exactly, the absolute dream. But instead of riding that wave, she actually dropped out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She walks away because she is terrified of just being molded into this cookie-cutter character reciting lines someone else wrote decades ago.
That takes a lot of guts.
It does. So she packs up, she moves to Atlanta, and she resorts to selling this homemade demo CD out of the trunk of a Mitsubishi Galant.
The classic hustle.
Right. And she takes this day job at Office Depot just to pay the bills, only to get fired.
Oh, no.
For replying to a fan email on company time.
You're kidding.
Nope. And somehow that firing becomes the catalyst for her to create this massive, sprawling, multi-album science fiction universe.
Wait, really? From Office Depot to a sci-fi universe?
Yes. A universe centered entirely around a time-traveling android messiah.
I mean, it sounds like a surrealist indie film, honestly.
It really does.
But that is the genuine trajectory of an artist who fundamentally rewired the modern music industry. We are talking, of course, about Janelle Monáe.
Yes, we are. And, while you might recognize her as a 10-time Grammy-nominated musician or like the standout star of massive films like Glass Onion and Hidden Figures.
She was incredible in those.
So good. But we're looking past the accolades today. We are doing a deep dive into the architectural brilliance of her career.
Because it really is architecture.
It is. The mission today is to look at how Monáe wielded this radical imagination, complex science fiction, and these very rigid alter egos.
Because she didn't build those fantasy worlds to escape reality.
Right.
She built them as the ultimate armor, like a way to process, critique, and really challenge the marginalization she saw in the real world.
And to really understand how that armor functions, and we have to look at where she came from, the materials it was forged from.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Her art is deeply tethered to her origins.
Right, because she grew up in Quindaro, which is a predominantly working-class community in Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah, and her parents worked really hard. Her mother, Janet, spent her days working as a janitor and a hotel maid.
And her father, Michael, was a truck driver.
Right. And she also grew up deeply embedded in the Baptist church, singing in local choirs.
And what's so fascinating is that what she took from that environment wasn't, a desire to flee her working class roots. It was this profound reverence for them.
Which brings us to the most defining visual of her early career.
The black and white tuxedo.
The tuxedo.
Yeah.
For a decade, you literally never saw her in anything else.
Never. She wore it buttoned up to the neck, complete with that signature pompadour hairstyle.
She even joked in interviews that she bathed in it, swam in it, and fully intended to be buried in it.
I love that. But that aesthetic choice was so brilliant because it operated on, multiple levels at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Aesthetically, she was drawing on this 18th century dandyism look, channeling icons like Josephine Baker and Grace Jones.
But functionally, she explicitly stated that the tuxedo was a uniform.
Right. It was a direct, intentional homage to the uniforms her parents wore to do that grueling, often invisible labor.
It really makes me think of it less like a fashion statement and more like a deep-sea diving suit.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. It's this pressurized, protective layer that lets you survive in a totally hostile environment.
Like the mainstream music industry.
Exactly, without being crushed by the pressure. And at the same time, it acts as a tether, keeping her connected to the ship on the surface, which is her community in Kansas City.
Yeah, she even told the London Evening Standard that she wore it so she wouldn't, quote, let her community down.
Which is just so powerful.
The diving suit analogy is really accurate because by adopting that uniform, she's taking the concept of domestic and blue-collar labor.
Roles that society usually ignores or diminishes.
Right. And she's forcing them to the absolute center of high art and pop culture. She spoke about this at the Black Girls Rock ceremony, reminding the audience of her own days working as a maid. She made the invisible visible.
But okay, this introduces a really compelling contradiction for me.
What's that?
How does a grounded working-class kid from Kansas wearing a tuxedo to honor her janitor mother end up creating concept albums about dystopian futures and time travel?
Well, the pivot toward world building really starts with that brief stint in New York we mentioned earlier.
When she was at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy?
Exactly, or AMDA. She found herself in a deeply isolating position there, being the only black woman in her class.
Oh, wow. That would be isolating.
Yeah, and while she respected the training, she developed this creeping anxiety about losing her edge. The curriculum required her to live vicariously through characters that had been played thousands of times before.
Which, for someone who had been writing original musicals since she was 12...
Wait, 12?
Yeah. She actually wrote one inspired by Stevie Wonder's Secret Life of Plants when she was a kid.
That's incredible. So yeah, confining her voice to a pre-existing script just felt totally stifling.
So she chooses self-reliance. She leaves the academy, moves to Atlanta, and self-releases her demo album, The Audition, in 2003.
And this leads to that infamous Office Depot firing.
The fan email.
Right. She gets caught answering a fan email on a company computer, gets let go, and then immediately writes a song about the experience called Letting Go.
Talk about turning lemons into lemonade.
Seriously. And that ability to instantly metabolize a setback into art is what ultimately caught the attention of Big Boy.
From the legendary hip-hop duo Outkast.
Exactly. He brought her into his orbit, featured her on some tracks, and then passed her music along to his friend Sean Combs.
P. Diddy, over at Bad Boy Records.
Right. Combs reviewed her MySpace page, and this is where the trajectory defies literally every standard music industry playbook.
Okay, I really want to push back on this part of the story because it sounds almost entirely fictional.
How?
We are talking about Sean Diddy Combs in the 2000s. Bad Boy Records was a hit factory.
Oh, absolutely.
They were in the business of manufacturing massive, immediate, radio-friendly club anthems. You don't sign to Bad Boy to pitch a multi-part concept album about a fugitive android from the year 2719.
It does seem crazy.
It goes against every financial incentive of that era's music business. Why wouldn't they just force her to record a standard R&B club track?
It is a massive anomaly, but it really speaks to the undeniable gravitational pull Monáe had already cultivated.
She just had that vision.
Yeah. According to Daniel Skid Mitchell, who was an A&R executive at Bad Boy, they recognized that her project wasn't something they needed to develop. She already had a completely self-contained movement.
Interesting.
Combs was reportedly fascinated by her look, specifically the fact that she refused to use her body to sell the music. And he just respected the underlying vision.
So they just let her do her thing.
Yeah. Rather than forcing a hot single that audiences would consume and quickly forget, Bad Boy and Big Boy provided something incredibly rare: organic freedom.
Wow.
They gave her the time and the capital to flesh out her own mythology.
Which gave her the runway to build one of the most ambitious conceptual arcs in modern music, the Metropolis saga.
Yes. She didn't just write a collection of songs, she engineered an entire universe.
And the architectural foundation of that universe is heavily indebted to Fritz Lang's 1927 silent film, Metropolis.
Monáe has often referred to it as the godfather of science fiction cinema. But the genius here lies in how she subverts the original text.
Because in Lang's 1927 film, the android is this destructive, evil double designed to sow chaos among the working class.
Exactly. Monáe takes that symbol and entirely flips the polarity. In her universe, the android is the savior.
This is where we meet Cindy Mayweather, her primary alter ego.
So who exactly is Cindy in the lore?
So Cindy is an android from the year 2719 who is basically on the run. And the crime she committed in her hometown of Metropolis, she broke the law by falling in love with a human.
A man named Anthony Greendown, right?
Right. And over the course of several album suites, beginning with The Chase, expanding into the Archandroid, and continuing through The Electric Lady, the narrative follows Cindy as she realizes her destiny.
Which is what?
She returns to Earth to save citizens from the Great Divide.
And the Great Divide is?
It's this oppressive, time-traveling oligarchy that suppresses freedom, individuality, and love.
On the surface, I mean, it has the pacing and color of a comic book. But the underlying mechanics of what she's doing with science fiction are incredibly heavy.
Yeah, why anchor this entire critique of society onto the concept of an android specifically?
Well, because the android is the ultimate metaphor for the new other. Monáe was very deliberate in explaining this. In her work, the android represents anyone who is pushed to the margins of society. She explicitly compared the android's plight to the experiences of the queer community, of Black women, and of the historically oppressed.
That makes so much sense.
This is the mechanism of neo-Afrofuturism. Afrofuturism traditionally blends African diaspora culture with technology and science fiction to reimagine the future.
But she added the neo part.
Right. Monáe modernized the neo aspect by using that futuristic lens to bypass the listener's immediate prejudices.
Oh, that is so smart.
Think about it. If she sings directly about modern racism or homophobia, some listeners might raise their defenses immediately. But if she sings about an android being hunted by the Great Divide, the listener absorbs the empathy before they even realize they are being critiqued.
It's like a sugar-coated pill.
Exactly.
The infectious, futuristic funk basically dilates the listener's resistance, allowing the radical socio-political commentary to absorb directly into their bloodstream.
And she grounds this futuristic critique firmly in her own reality. On the Arch-Android, with tracks like Cold War, she draws a direct sonic and lyrical line between the dystopian, neon-lit cityscapes of Metropolis and the poverty-racked housing projects of Kansas City.
So the fantasy world isn't an escape from reality, it's a mirror reflecting it back to us.
We see that mirror become even sharper by her second full studio album, The Electric Lady.
Right, there is a standout track on that record featuring Erykah Badu, titled Quen,
Which is such a good song.
It's amazing. And Monáe revealed that the song was actually born out of private conversations between her and Badu regarding the societal treatment of marginalized people.
And the title itself contains a hidden mechanism.
Yes, it is an acronym. It stands for Queer, Untouchables, Emigrants, Excommunicated, and Negroid.
Think about the subversive brilliance of that. She packaged a title representing the most ostracized groups in society into a flawlessly produced dance track that racked up millions of views in a matter of days.
She completely infiltrated the mainstream.
And to protect that mission, she maintained strict discipline. I mean, for years, she conducted interviews fully in character as Cindy Mayweather.
She would casually tell reporters that she only dated other androids.
Right. The tuxedo and the sci-fi persona formed this impenetrable shield around her actual vulnerable self.
But an artist can only wear a shield for so long before it starts to limit the range of motion.
Very true.
And the pivot point for her really arrives around 2016. This was a monumental year because Monáe took a huge leap from the recording studio to the big screen.
And she didn't just take, small background roles.
No, she starred in two of the most critically acclaimed, culturally vital films of the decade simultaneously. Moonlight, which went on to win Best Picture.
Amazing film.
And Hidden Figures, where she portrayed the brilliant, real-life NASA engineer Mary Jackson, which actually earned her a Critics' Choice Movie Award nomination.
I wonder if the mechanics of acting forced a reset in her creative process.
What do you mean?
Well, when you are a method artist who has been playing a character Cindy Mayweather in your own life for a decade, stepping onto a film set requires a profound shift.
Oh, I see.
To put on the emotional armor of Teresa in Moonlight or Mary Jackson in Hidden Figures, you first have to take off your own. You can't wear two suits of armor at the same time.
That is an incredibly astute observation. The vulnerability required for film acting really demands that the artist access their own baseline humanity.
Right. So when she finally returned to the music industry in 2018 with her third album, Dirty Computer, the sci-fi barrier was significantly thinner.
Yeah, while their albums still utilized narrative elements and even had a dystopian sci-fi companion film, the perspective had definitely shifted.
She was no longer engaging in external world building, she was engaging in internal exploration. The voice on the record was undeniably Janelle, not Cindy.
And there's a detail about the creation of Dirty Computer that really highlights this shift toward absolute, unfiltered authenticity.
Note that.
Monáe shared that music icon Prince was heavily involved in the early stages of the album before his passing.
Wow, Prince.
Yeah, she noted that he helped her collect sounds and concepts before he, as she put it, passed on to another frequency.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
And Prince, as an artist, was the absolute master of discarding labels and simply being his deeply funky, unapologetic self. You can hear his permission to be entirely free echoing throughout that whole album.
Prince's influence on her confidence just cannot be overstated. But it's also crucial to look at how Monáe's willingness to step out from behind the android persona coincided with her increasing engagement with real-world activism.
Right.
Like right before her cinematic leap. In 2015, she and her Wonderland Art Society collective released the track Hell You Townbout.
That track is such an intense listen. It strips away all the futuristic metaphors. It is just raw, visceral percussion and chanting.
Exactly. With that track, Monáe wasn't just making music, she was acting as a cultural documentarian.
The lyrics consist solely of chanting the names of victims of police brutality. Walter Scott, Jerame Reed, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, and others.
Just impartially laying out the names, but with so much weight. She captured the exact sociopolitical fractures of that specific moment in American history and archived that pain directly into her art.
She even performed it on national television during the Today Show.
The android was officially gone at that point. She was no longer singing about the fictional Great Divide. She was demanding accountability in the present-day United States.
And her civic footprint only grew from there. By 2020, she released the song Turntables, which served as an anthem for a massive bipartisan voter registration campaign backed by Stacey Abrams.
She even won a Children's and Family Emmy for her contributions to We the People, which was this animated series focused on teaching civics, produced by Barack and Michelle Obama.
She had fully planted her feet in the reality of the present moment.
What is truly remarkable, though, is how this shedding of her musical and conceptual armor ran perfectly parallel to a highly public evolution of her personal identity.
Yeah, as the music became more transparent, so did she.
Tracing that evolution reveals so much about her journey to feeling safe in the world.
It really does, because as we noted, back in 2011, the official line was that she, quote, only dates androids.
Right.
But then a few years later, in 2013, she opened the door slightly, stating she wanted both men and women to be attracted to her.
And by 2018, coinciding perfectly with the release of the highly introspective Dirty Computer, she publicly identified with both bisexuality and pansexuality.
And that journey of self-discovery just continued to expand. In early 2020, she tweeted the hashtag #IamNonBinary, signaling a deeper understanding of her gender identity.
Which culminated in 2022 when she formally came out as non-binary during an appearance on the show Red Table Talk.
The way she articulated that realization is just so profound. She explained that she simply doesn't see herself solely as a woman.
She stated, and I'm quoting here, "I feel like God is so much bigger than the he or the she, and if I am from God, I am everything."
Wow. She elaborated that she feels her feminine energy, her masculine energy, and an energy she can't even fully explain.
It is a stunningly expansive view of the self. She has since been very open about her pronouns, embracing she, her, they, them, and perhaps most fitting for her current era, referring to herself as a free-ass motherfucker.
Which is amazing. And that brings us to the ultimate destination of this journey. Her 2023 Grammy-nominated album, The Age of Pleasure.
This project is a complete, unadulterated 180-degree turn from where she started.
Completely. The heavy, buttoned-up tuxedo is gone. The complex, time-traveling android narratives are gone.
Monáe herself describes The Age of Pleasure not just as an album, but as a movement and a soundtrack to a lifestyle.
The heavy socio-political weight that characterized her earlier work has been replaced by the unapologetic, radical pursuit of joy.
The production is driven by these sensual, summery, reggae-influenced beats. Tracks like Water Slide and Lipstick Lover offer joyous, completely open depictions of queer love, fluidity, and self-acceptance.
It really is the sound of someone who has finally put down their weapon.
Definitely.
Looking at this entire timeline, I just keep returning to the mechanics of that armor.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
She spent over a decade wearing a literal physical uniform. She built a rigid, incredibly complex sci-fi fortress and pretended to be a machine from the year 2719.
But looking back, it seems she used that rigid structure to carve out the safest possible space for herself.
Exactly. She built a fortress so she could safely cultivate her most fluid, vulnerable, and authentic self behind its walls until she was finally strong enough to lower the drawbridge.
It highlights the dual nature of an alter ego. Monáe once explained that she created her expansive universe a world heavily influenced by anime, Broadway, and Afrofuturism, because the reality she grew up in was burdened with confusion and nonsense.
But here's the brilliant mechanism of her career.
By building that fantasy so thoroughly, and by committing to the bit with such uncompromising discipline, she didn't just escape reality.
She actively reshaped it.
She manifested a global community where anyone who feels like another, the queer community, marginalized people, the untouchables she sang about in QEN, could find a sanctuary.
She recognized that the world didn't have a space for her, so she architected one from scratch and then left the door open for everyone else to walk through.
Precisely. The Cindy Mayweather persona wasn't a deception. It was a chrysalis.
I love that.
And that brings the central theme of this deep dive right back to you, listening to this right now. Monáe's journey forces us to examine the psychological architecture of our own lives. We all navigate the world using different personas.
It really does make you evaluate your own armor. Like, what kind of uniform are you wearing when you walk into your office, when you log online, or even when you interact with certain family members?
Is that uniform a cage that is hiding who you really are?
Or, like Janelle Monáe's tuxedo, is it a pressurized diving suit, secretly protecting your true, most vulnerable self, keeping you safe and grounded, just until you're finally ready to share it with the world?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for listening to People Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.